Hey, how you guys doing? Good afternoon. My name's Ken Brown, and welcome to Local Sports Wrap Up. I got the pleasure of being here with Frank the Tank again. Frank, how's it go?
Pretty good. Great to be back here once again.
Oh yeah, how'd the week
Definitely.
go? It was a pretty busy week for you, or?
Yeah, it was a fun week. This was the rundown now for basketball. We had the Elite Eight with the quarterfinals, and then we got to the semifinals.
Okay.
Unfortunately, none of our teams made it past the semifinals, but
Yeah,
this was a good week for Downer for basketball either way.
definitely. And I think basketball in general has been nuts. I don't know if you're following, but March Madness turned out to be like no number one seeds. All two, three of the four teams that made the Final Four have never been to the Final Four. So only blue blood you got is UConn. So bet all the underdogs, I guess, this weekend or next weekend, and you should be okay.
Yeah, we got a local guy helping out there with Micah Parrish, a River Rouge graduate at San Diego State.
Yeah, Michael Parrish, he's a Aztec, San Diego State. He's averaging like 8 points, 4 rebounds. He must have hit a long shot, to get them to the tournament, into the tournament. They won their conference, but San Diego State's really doing really well. So it's good to hear River Rouge has a representative and Downriver has a representative. As we get back into talking about high school basketball, what is it that you had an opportunity to see? I know I talked to you a little bit on the weekend, and you were actually at the Summit game. So what is it that you saw?
I was out at the Breslin Center on Friday night for the Summit semifinal game.
Okay.
It was really cool. I mean, I've been there a few times now, but it's always really cool to go into that place.
Yeah.
You know, that floor where Tom Izzo is.
Yeah.
So many, and all those Magic Johnson, T. Cleaves.
Yeah.
All those legends have passed through there. It's really cool to be down on that floor and be in that stadium. So just legendary basketball. Nationwide, some of the best basketball ever. In college, has been played in that facility. It's really cool to be there, especially in the capacity I was. As a reporter. Being down on press row and having a chance to be right on the floor.
No, that sounds cool. And Michigan State did us proud, even though they lost in the Sweet 16. They end up losing by a couple points, but they did really well. And I agree, the times that I've been to the Breslin, it's always been breathtaking. And I think it's kind of cool to watch, like, up-and-coming high school kids get an opportunity to play on that floor. Me and you can go back and forth all the way to Magic Johnson, like you said, but those kids, man, they're gritty out there, and it's good to see. So with those scores, we got those scores, and we talked about it a little bit last week as things were leading up to. E-Course were going to play Lanesburg, and Lanesburg was like 25-0, and we didn't know how E-Course was going to do, and they prevailed in the quarterfinals 57-46 to get past Lanesburg. I'm sorry. So that was a good win, but that's not the game that you actually saw, right? Which game did you?
I did see that game.
That's the game you saw?
I was at that game that night. Yeah.
Okay, so during that, was it E-Course, all the way? Or?
E-Course jumped out to a real big lead. I want to say they were up maybe like 17-3.
Okay.
But then Langsburg was able to climb back in. Langsburg, by the end, I think at one point, cut their deficit down to about 10 points.
Okay.
So they were alive at the end. Big thing with E-Course is they were missing Kenneth Morast, their big star guard. Okay. 1,000-point career scorer. He had broken his hand in the regional final a few days earlier, so he wasn't available. So
that's got to be a bummer for a senior. You work hard. You get all the way to the Final Four. He got to the 8 for them, and then he couldn't play once they got to the Breslin. But they prevailed that first night, and they won, and then they got to the semis, right?
Right, they made it to the state semis.
Okay. The other game, though, that we kind of talked about was Taylor Trillium. Taylor Trillium was on a roll. Unfortunately, they got knocked off by Cardinal Mooney, 59-56, which was a really good game. So they didn't get a chance to punch their ticket to the Breslin. Now, the other team that in the quarterfinals from here that we kind of talked about was Romulus Summit. And Summit Academy beat Chelsea 68-62 to get themselves a matchup with Grand Rapids Christian, as it turned out.
Right.
And we talked about it back and forth. Summit had this guy that was almost Mr. Basketball, or still had the potential to be. He was really doing well, and so they got past the first round, and then they lost.
Yeah, at the Breslin on Friday night, they ran into a really, really good Grand Rapids South Christian team, and they gave them a battle because they were down for a good chunk of the game with 40 seconds left. Dominic, I apologize, I don't remember how to say his last name. Krzyzak, I believe.
Okay.
He hit a three-pointer and tied the game with 41 seconds left. Forced overtime. Ecorse scored in overtime, but then South Christian hit right back, and they were able to hold on. And it was 40-35, so it was a low-scoring game, which is rare for Summit. Summit has been piling up points this year.
Does it seem like the venue may have been not too big for them, but it was like early on were they missing, or is it kind of throughout?
I think it was a combination of that. There might have been a little bit of jitters out there. You know, some of those guys are young.
Sure.
You're getting out there on the big stage in front of all those people, and you're playing a really great team in South Christian, a team that's been there countless times, I think. So with all that factored in, I think they did a great job, though.
Yeah, and still missing their second leading scorer too, because Mraz was out.
No, that was for Ecorse.
That was Ecorse.
Yeah.
So this is Summit.
Yeah,
so they had their guy.
Yep, they had James Wright. James Wright was out there,
Mr. Wright didn't have the right stuff this week. That's okay. That we're still proud of Romulus Summit.
Yeah.
The last game that we had for that that's lost to them. So the two losses in the semi, Flint Beecher actually beat Ecorse 64-54, and that's not a bad thing for Ecorse because obviously Flint Beecher went on to win the state championship. Right. And then Grand Rapids South Christian beat Summit 40-35.
Right.
So before you get to the final day, the downriver teams had pretty much kind of fallen off the radar, and then we're into the finals.
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody made it back for that Saturday for the big day. But
man, shout out to all those teams that came in and they prepared themselves all season. They have nothing to be ashamed of. Getting all the way to the Breslin is definitely a memorable moment in time. I guess it makes me think of the movie Hoosiers, just going in and getting the opportunity to go play in the big house from these small little, because Ecorse is a very small school, so for them to get down to Breslin, that's a big time move. So we're proud of them, good job, guys. We really appreciate that. And I was talking about it. Flint Beecher, I know they end up beating. Cardinal Mooney didn't win, but they lost in the finals, so there's nothing to be ashamed of there to the Trillium. So basketball's over, and it's on to the spring sports a little bit.
Yep.
Right?
We're on to baseball and softball and tennis and all those good sports.
Yeah, and it looks like the weather's trying to cooperate today. Now the one thing we were going to go back a little bit talk about was the football game down at Wayne State in September or the end of August, the opening weekend. We really found out that that game is River Rouge and Belleville. That's who's going to play at the showcase at Wayne State.
Yes, those two teams will play on the Friday night there. I believe that's August 25th. Okay. So that's the second of the 3 nights at the Zenith Prep Kickoff Classic at Wayne State. I had a misstep last week. Accidentally said that Wyandotte and Allen Park would be playing. That game was actually last year. The schedule I had linked back to the previous year, and I didn't give it enough of a glance before we went on the air.
We're good. April Fools. Yeah, we're good.
No, apologies to the fans out there.
No, we're good. We're looking at Rouge playing Belleville, which Belleville won a state championship, I want to say the last 2 years. I know they won last year.
Last year they did.
And then they were really good the year before. And over the last 2 years, they've had probably 12 kids go to D1 and play football. And I really think that quarterback's back, number 19 for
Yes.
Belleville, which will be a problem. The good news for Rouge is they have 4 months to get ready, because that kid's going to be sensational, I believe. So we're looking forward to that. And like we talked about last week, Zenith does a great job of putting that thing together. It's really professionally done. So we look forward to seeing some teams down there. And it's on a Friday. You get off work, stop downtown, pop off to Wayne State, which isn't far from downtown Detroit. You can have a great time watching some good high school football and watch those kids mix it up on the gridiron. Sign me up. Sign me up, Frank. I'd love to go.
Also, shout out to the prep kickoff classic crew and everybody there. The Detroit Sports Commission, they do a great job also of putting that on. Marty and the guys down there, so
Okay.
shout out to them.
Shout out to Marty and the guys. All right. Detroit, was it the Prep Kickoff Classic crew?
Well, it's the Detroit Sports Commission.
Detroit Sports Commission. Yeah, give them a shout out. Now, if we talk about girls football, which would be soccer, that is spring, right?
Yeah, that's-
Sprung on us, right?
Yeah,
These things are happening quick. What did we have happening this week or this last week in girls soccer?
Things got underway this week, and we had Allen Park winning 2-0 over Detroit Western.
Okay. Western's really good, and the main thing is it looks like Wyandotte got out of the gate and mopped up Melvindale 9-zip.
That's good to see for Wyandotte. They've had their ups and downs over since they've instituted a program there, I believe 5 years ago or so. So it's good to see them getting a big win early on. Good for their program.
And then it says Cabrini gave Southgate a bunch of business too, 8-0. And Southgate's normally pretty good in soccer. Belleville 3, Riverview 1, Gabriel Richard 5, Jackson Lumen Christie 1, and then that's Dearborn Crestwood 3. Allen Park loses 3-2 to Crestwood to start. Wow.
So they started out 1-1 with dropping one to Crestwood. Crestwood's always good.
Okay.
Crestwood's always, the girls and boys soccer over there is always strong.
No, that's good. I think that it was good that they got it in. They picked the right day this weekend because there was like a beautiful day, and then the next day it was rainy and yucky. I know a lot of the boys' baseball was supposed to jump off Saturday, and a lot of them rained out.
Right.
I know the guy that coaches at UAD Jesuit High,
Okay.
and they were supposed to play in Woodhaven this weekend,
Right.
and they rained out. So we'll see. This is actually spring break for those kids at Wyandotte anyway, and I know in Detroit Public School it's spring break. So I don't think there's a lot of action this week because of the schools being out, but it's probably a great time to practice. Those kids don't have school. I know our coach would have us out there every day during spring break.
Wow.
There was no time off. It was time to get better. You might have got one game in before it started, and now we're practicing daily, getting our reps, getting ready for the season. So I'm sure that a lot of those teams, those spring baseball and softball teams, are getting prepared, as well as the soccer.
Well, the ones that stayed home. I know a lot of those kids are down in Florida right now. I saw a lot of Facebook pictures this week of kids waving by, getting on airplanes, and heading to warm places. So, but good for them. Good to get some rest and have some fun. You'll make memories with their friends one last time.
No, you're right. And you know what's interesting that you say that, Frank, is when God rest his soul, Coach Dignan was our baseball coach. Spring break wasn't an option. That had a lot to do with you making or missing, making the team if you decided to go to spring break, as unfortunately as it might have been. So a lot of us didn't get those those high school spring break memories because you had to choose if you wanted to play baseball, if you wanted to do that. It was just the type of disciplinarian he was. But in the end, those are lifelong relationships. As I was doing a deep dive into softball, and we had talked about Allen Park being really good last year, the state champs, and Sizemore coming back. Looking through the different divisions, the other team that was really good downriver last year was Trenton.
Trenton had a really good year.
Yeah, they made it all the way to like the 4. the Final Four in softball. They didn't make it to that final weekend.
Yeah, they played in the championship. I don't remember who they played, but they made it all the way to the championship game.
And then lost?
Too. Yep, they fell in the championship game.
Okay.
Yeah, Rick Tangway. Rick Tangway's done a great job, the coach over there, of stepping in and really taking that team to the next level.
Yeah. And since we last were on, I had an opportunity to go to Trenton and see the field.
Okay.
And it looks great, just like you said. And it is grass in the outfield, just like you said. But in the infield, it won't get messed up by rain.
Right.
So that'll be good. So I'm sure they're going to probably be playing baseball this week. And if they were thinking, they probably could rent that field out to other teams that don't have as good a surface. So between Wyandotte, I'm saying Wyandotte because I know they're pretty decent in softball and baseball. Trenton, and then Allen Park. I think that we should have some good baseball, softball, spring sports this season and have some success. Have you heard anything through the grapevine or some sneaky picks or something like that?
Not so much sneaky, but we talked about Woodhaven last week. They were right there last year.
Okay.
They were one of the better teams in the state. I think they were ranked in the top 5 for a good chunk of the year. So you'll have Woodhaven. They're going to compete. They're going to battle Allen Park and Trenton. And then you're gonna have New Boston Huron, which should be good. You're gonna have Flat Rock, which should be good. Gabriel Richard down in D4 should be good. We'll see what Cabrini can do. This is year 2 without Norm over there since she stepped down. So we'll see if they can get back to where they were.
Right.
And then you've got a lot of middle of the road teams that were middle of the road last year. That could maybe take that step. Say a Wyandotte, a Southgate. Intercity Baptist down in D4.
Okay.
Some of those teams could take that next step.
No, and I think that you're right, that it kind of, you could count on those juniors or seniors to be or juniors to be because you kind of know what you have. But sometimes, every once in a while, there'll be a young kid that'll step in and grab the reins, whether he's a really good fielder at shortstop or a really fast outfielder that can cover some ground. If you can get that middle solidified in softball or baseball, you're normally doing yeoman's work. And I think that I did ask that coach that I know at Jesuit, and he said they are applying those new rules to the game.
Okay.
They are going to speed it up. The 8-second count, all those things are starting for them in high school as well. Okay. So it'll just continue on as they grow and grow. So they'll have some adjustment as well because they got to get used to the new systems or they'll be striking them out left and right.
Right.
I don't know. It just seems like a whirlwind as far as sports goes. And we got through the fall, and now we've gotten through the winter sports. And now as we come upon the spring, it just seems a little light. You know what I mean? And I know we haven't talked about track much yet. And track's probably where the majority of people play. But I'm looking forward to this spring season because those games will be outside, right? And we'll get an opportunity to see. Do you have somewhere you're going over the next few weeks, a game that you got circled on your calendar or an event that you got?
I know that first week there in softball, I know there's going to be some good games. I believe New Boston Huron plays Allen Park. I could be wrong about that. But I know that there's, New Boston Huron plays Allen Park, so that has the chance to be a good game. But speaking in general, whirlwind is definitely the correct term when you're talking about spring, because you get going now in April and you figure everything is wrapped up by mid-June.
Sure.
Your state championship is already played by mid-June, as opposed to the winter where you're getting going. You get hockey, which starts up maybe 2 weeks or a week before Thanksgiving, and then we just finally finished now a few days ago.
I got you.
So the spring, everything is there's so much all packed into such a short period of time.
Yeah. And for seniors, you got graduation, you got all these other things that take place. But you're right that sports element of it is going to happen in the next 90 days, and kids will be getting out of school, but then they'll still be competing in athletics. which is kind of exciting. You talked about New Boston Huron in baseball and the things that they did last year to compete. New Boston actually got a game in this week, or last week on the 22nd. They had an opportunity to play Belleville, which I'm not sure how the Belleville Tigers are in baseball, but in the past they've been really good. I know when Coach DeZellier was there, they made some different strides. But New Boston beat them 5-0. So it looks like New Boston is starting out kind of hot, like you said. Do they have a kid that we know that's down there doing his thing or not yet?
We talked about Gavin Wojciechowski. We've talked about him a couple times here on the show. He's committed to Michigan State. He's the pitcher.
Okay.
I know he got into that game. I know somebody else pitched. I think I don't remember which pitcher started, but I know that it was kind of a two-man operation there. Early in the year, I think that's how they're going to handle it.
Yeah.
Well, any coach is going to handle it as far as his pitching rotation.
Sure, and any good coach, you're right. As the season starts and they get those arms warmed up, and in Michigan, I'm sure that game on the 22nd was no higher than 53 degrees.
Yeah.
So you want to definitely make sure that kid's stretching and he wants to keep him for the long haul, not for the short haul. Other games that happened, Wyandotte beat Riverview 5-2. And that's what I was saying. I think that Wyandotte has just the right amount of youth as well as leadership from the seniors and juniors where they could be dangerous, because generally the Pirates have a pretty good team too. So it's good to see them get off to a quick start. The other game that we saw was Flat Rock, right? Flat Rock actually lost to Plymouth 5-4. So we'll see what Flat Rock has for us. But then on the other side of the coin, Grosse Ile dominated Lincoln Park 12-0. So we're seeing the people from the island play as well.
That Grosse Ile team, they deserved a shout out last week. They actually made it all the way to the semifinals last year. So they lost some good kids. Ty Garza has moved on, and a couple of other stars from that team have moved on. They have a new coach now, but I think that they can be back in the mix again. And also, Gabriel Richard won the state championship last year,
Okay.
the Division IV state championship. That was their second title in 4 years.
Okay.
So when we talked baseball last week, I should have given them a shout out too. But
No,
along with Huron.
No, they're doing well. You said Ty Garza. He was a really good soccer player too, though, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, I thought he scored almost 100 goals or something sick. I remember talking about him over and over again. So no, that's good. I'm excited. Baseball is probably my favorite sport. I like football, but baseball is right there. Where I love the smell of the grass. I love this season. It's time to do it. So I'm super excited that Wyandotte started off on a strong note. And talking about deserving a shout out, right? The coach at Lincoln Park, the girls softball coach. Lincoln Park actually beat Taylor Trillium 16-0. But the significance of that 16-0 victory was what?
Coach Debbie Howell, the Lincoln Park coach, it was her 300th career win as a softball coach.
No, that's good. 300 wins. She's a Hall of Famer in most worlds, because I would think in high school you may play 30 games. Maybe if you're on a good softball team, you're playing 30. If you're on a bad softball team, you're probably playing 15, right? Where your coach isn't getting you extra games and you're just playing in your league. But if she goes 30-0 for 10 years, we know she hasn't done that. We'd be talking more about her, right? And so she's probably been there 20 years, getting 15, 20 wins a year. That's consistency. So congratulations to Coach Howell. It's good to see that. She's got Lincoln Park rail splitting their way through softball.
Yeah, Debbie does a great job. Debbie is a great person. The Howell family are great people. The great sports family, softball family. Their daughter went to Central Michigan and pitched for the Chippewas for a few years. She's back coaching now in the area.
Okay.
So it's good.
Fire up chips. All right, I got you. Yeah, no. So they have a history, and I think that's what I love about these small towns. If you ever want to tell us about somebody that is meeting the tradition and following the standards, please, Local Sports Wrap Up. I would love for you to email us so you can we can talk about the highlights of these kids and just celebrate them. Because you only get one time to be a high school athlete, so you want to take advantage of it. And you want to hear your name. When we were kids, you wanted to see your name in the paper. But now that you have an opportunity to be on Wyandotte Connects, send the information. Send the information. Frank, it's always good, man.
Always.
So it's good to catch up. I'm glad that we got a chance to do this. Hopefully over the next week we'll get some more games in so we can talk about some positive and great things that are happening in Downriver next week. So for Frank, I'm Ken Brown. Thanks a lot. We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next week.